everyone, I'm Bill. I'm with Cali Moto TV. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the garage. And welcome to the final video of a 4-part series on the 2022 BMW S1000R. And today is the final day that we get to hear the music out of the full exhaust system, the airbox flapper delete, the air filter install, the air temperature relocation, and we get our first start on this thing. So thank you guys for sticking around for this 4-part series. And it's been a big job. We've been in the garage for 3 days now, and we are on the home stretch, and we're gonna finish this out. Now, if you guys missed the first 3 videos, we're gonna link them up above. In this, in the next couple minutes, you'll see them all come up in order. But first video, the removal and putting back on of all of the fairings, the tanks and everything. Video number 2 is gonna be the Evo Tech radiator guard we got installed over here. Video number 3, of course, the hour-plus long video of the install of the SC project. And today's video is going to be the install of the flapper delete, the air temperature relocation, the air filter, and tune by Bren Tunings. So if you guys have made it this far, like I said, thank you so much for all the support. It's been a big job, and we're gonna hear this thing at the end of this video. So I gotta give a huge shout out and thank you to the guys over at Bren Tunings. They've been a big help with this video and this particular video, because today we're going to be tackling the removal of this humongous tank, air filter, the ECU. We got to get into the air filter. We've got to get the box removed so we can get the flapper delete and the air temperature relocation. So this is going to be another big video. So grab your coffee, grab your drinks. Let's get started on the removal of the airbox ECU wire loom harness up here, so we can access all of the airbox stuff that we're going to be putting in with Bren Tunings. All right, so clearly you guys are at the position that, well, there should be a tank here. If you guys haven't seen the tank removal, I will link it up above right now, and that's the full fairing and tank removal to get to this area. Now, once you're at this area, the first thing we're gonna do is go ahead and get the ECU loose. You can see it's a little bit loose over here, but we're bolted down here, and we have a bunch of zip ties we have to snip to get this thing loose. So we're gonna snip a few zip ties, undo this bolt, and get this thing loose and kind of pulled back over here. All right, so I've got this unbolted, and I've unsnipped all of the zip ties that hold this loom down, okay? Now, zip ties are cheap, and they're actually easy to run through this, so just snip the zip ties. It's gonna make your job a lot easier. Now, there's a couple little sensors that are strapped onto here and here, your injectors, that we're gonna pull off your little intakes right here, because we wanna go ahead and just pull this whole loom away from the airbox. So we're gonna get all of this stuff removed, so you can go ahead and pull these little sensors out, or the little plugs here, plug here, and here. And then what you're gonna do is gonna start working, there's little pieces of tape in here, and you're gonna just cut these little pieces of tape. You've got a sensor also up here under the ECU, which this is actually the air temperature sensor, which is what we're going to be relocating. So you can actually go ahead and push that over and actually pull this sensor out. It can come out with the loom. And the idea is to pull this all over and just have it rest up over here, so then we have full accessibility to the airbox. All right, by the way, a pick is going to be your best friend to get all of these little sensors unplugged. Now, once we have everything unplugged, you're gonna see that we can actually take this ECU and wire loom and actually just rotate it back here and rest it securely, please, securely, which then access us up to the airbox and injector fuel rail and everything, which is gonna be our next step. But if you guys are just replacing the air filter, this is actually where you would be for the air filter. So you're gonna pop off this ring, and here's your air filter. So we can replace our air filter here, put it back in, and you guys are ready to roll if you guys are only here for the air filter, okay? Make sure there's also a little holder here. But next step is going to get this actual air box removed, because the air flappers, you can just barely see them in there. These two bolts is what we've got to access next. So next we'll be taking this part off. All right, so with the air box exposed, you're going to remove this little plastic bracket. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little black bolts that are going to be a T20. So you're going to remove these 6 bolts. And now your little plastic piece will come out. There's a little piece down here. And go ahead and pull the plastic piece out and set your 6 bolts aside. So now we've exposed the fuel rail and the 4 injectors. Now you're going to use again another T20. I've got a little handle here, and we want to make sure that these bolts come out nice and clean. I don't want to use the impact on this. So we're going to take out the 4 bolts and remove the fuel rail. All right, with those 4 bolts removed, you're going to give this thing a little wiggle and the injectors will come out. It's going to stay stationary with your fuel rail here. You don't need to remove this. Just be careful around the injectors, please. If you guys want to throw a rag over it, that's what I'm going to do, is just make sure that everything stays clean with that. So we'll do that. And now we've got our bolts for that hold down our air box. Now the air box is going to come out complete, but we have to take out the little breather hose down here. So you're going to grab a little pair of needle nose pliers, and what you do is you twist this a little bit sideways and it will pop off. We'll be able to reuse it, but you're going to have to pop this off, and then you have a T27 or T30 here, 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 and here to remove the air box. All right, so I used a little pair of needle nose vice grips to get down there to kind of get this thing popped off. And what it is you'll see that there's a little prong there that locks into that prong, and it snaps it together. So we want to be able to get that off, which is going to push this hose off. And now we're ready to go ahead and start wiggling this air box and making sure it's completely loose. I think we're free everywhere. We're ready to pull the air box off. All right, so a few little things to watch out for. This has got to be unclipped, which is just a push on the tabs on the end. And then over here, there are a few little components that just need to be unplugged. And then I believe when we pull this off, there's going to be one final little hose on the bottom. So let's go under here. That's our breather hose. So now we're going to go ahead and get our breather hose off. There we go. And there's our air box. So we've got our air box taken off, and now we've got the accessibility to our flappers. All right, so now we have our flappers exposed. That's what those two things are, and the housing for the flappers. Now there's 2 T27s up here that hold this into the box. And then on the S1000R and RR, there are 2 little push clips here that's going to free this. So once we're gonna get these 2 done and the clip here, we're gonna have this free, but be careful because it's actually plugged in on the bottom. So you're gonna take it out, rotate it, and get it unplugged. All right, so we have the box loose. So we're gonna go ahead and gently pull this out and gently rotate it around. And you're gonna see the flapper motor here is on the bottom. So you're gonna push the little tab and get this thing unplugged. And then we have the flapper removed. Now, we haven't talked about the air temperature relocation, because what we're going to be doing is we're actually going to be installing that air temperature relocation in this part of the box. The reason why we're going to do it here is because we don't really have the accessibility to the front of the bike as well as if you have the S1000R. So this is going to be an easy way to get this thing installed by using it on the bottom, because if you guys see down here, there's actually a little opening down on the bottom, or to the right. I think we're going to go right there and get that relocation put in. Actually, I think I'm going to do it right here to give it a little bit better fresh air. All right, so now you have the flappers in there and you can see what the restriction is. So on the right and left of the flappers, that's all the air right there. That's all the air you get under 6,000 RPMs into the bike. The flapper restricts the air until 6,000 RPMs via this servo motor. So we're going to be removing the servo motor. So you're going to take out, there's 3 little bolts here. It looks like they are T25s, and you're going to remove these 3 bolts. Now once you've removed those bolts, you can kind of wiggle it a little bit and take out your servo. This is going to be eliminated. You're going to actually take this out. Now if you guys are doing this, you guys are going to have the Bren tuning, basically, just so you know. So this is going to be requiring you to do a stage 2 tune. So give you a little example of what we've got working on here. So you can see these flaps open and close at 6,000 RPMs, allowing a lot more air in. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're actually going to go ahead and remove that little spring and grab these little gears, kind of push them up on the top here, and the gears are going to pop out, and the gears are going to pop out, and voila, our flappers have been deleted. So now you're going to grab your flapper delete kit, which you've got from Bren Tune, and there's going to be a couple little things we're going to do. We're going to plug up the top holes, and we're going to plug the bottom hole and get everything nice and secure, and then start to get the air temperature relocation redone, because I'm not sure exactly where we're going to put it, if we're going to put it on the side here or where we're going to be able to put it. So stand by for the air temperature relocation, but let's go ahead and get this installed and buttoned up down here. All right, so to install the eliminator kit, you're actually just going to wedge that piece right in to where those gears were, and you'll see it fits nice and snug. And then you're going to use one of the T25 bolts to get it secure right here at the top. All right, so we'll go ahead and get this tightened down. It's nice and secure. All right, so our flapper kit has been eliminated for the motor. Now up top, where the 2 little prongs were that go in, there are 2 little plugs. You're going to just snap those right in each of the top plugs. And the air box is, or the air intake box, is now ready to be reinstalled back into the bike. All right, guys, so for the S1000R, the 2022 people that are doing the air relocation, unfortunately, because we've got a naked bike, these side panels are exposed. Now, this is where typically the RR guys would put their relocation, but unfortunately, we don't really have much room up here, and the forks are there, and it's kind of exposed, and you always will see this area, okay? So I've opted to basically move up to this position, to move it up pretty close. We're closer to the air box, but I think we've got a pretty good location, and you can see I've drilled it in there, and that would be our relocation right there in the middle. So hopefully it's going to give us a little bit cooler air. So now when we've got the thing all nice and secure, we can go ahead and slide this right back in and get this reinstalled and snap back in. All right, so you guys are at the halfway point. We are now going back together. So the air box is back in. You can see I've got the air temperature relocation wire right here, which will be buried by the wire harness. So it's actually a very good place because it's, you know, nice and easy. So we're gonna go ahead and install the box back, make sure it's clipped back here, and then we're gonna start bolting everything back in. So the 2 bolts inside the air intake box. And then now we are ready to reinstall back the air intake box. Now, remember, get these little snips up here. Make sure that they're both snipped in. Now, our little breather hose, that's gonna go down in between the fuel line. And then you're gonna clear all your cables away. So make sure that this is away. And there's a couple cables on this side. You're gonna make sure you don't bury them. And once you guys are at this position, then you guys are gonna start gently pushing down the air box back onto the air intakes. All right, so you guys are gonna know that the air box is completely on is when it nice and rests right where your bolts need to go. Everything is nice, and basically this needs to go up just a little bit more, but I think that bolts down. But basically our intake, our air box is nice and against our intakes, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and secure the 4 bolts. All right, so you guys should have the 2 bolts down here, and then you've got the long silver bolts here. Now, these little brackets probably came out. Now they slide between both the air flapper intake box and the air box on the frame. So the right side you're gonna put in here, and what it is this just a little wire guide to keep everything in. And then we're gonna go ahead and slide this bolt in and get both sides nice and tightened down. Again, the little guide goes in here, so it's gonna just be a little guide right for this stuff, okay? And get our bolt on. Now you probably have seen here on your S1000R, guys, this little plug, we're just gonna keep it tucked in right here. That's the servo plug from the flapper. All right, guys, don't forget your breather down here at the bottom. I just used a pair of pliers, and actually you just kind of crimp it together, and once you get it crimped together, you'll hear a little snap, and then your breather's all secure. So now our air box and our front intake box is all secure. We're ready to go ahead and take the fuel injection and fuel rail and place it back in and start buttoning everything up. All right, so we're gonna gently grab the fuel rail and insert it into the air box, and you're gonna give it just a nice little firm push just to get those seals seated in. And once that is, you see all of the 1, 2, 3, 4 bolt holes all line up, and they all should be flush. And now we're going to insert the 4 screws that we took out of the fuel rail. All right, now that you've got the air box on, the fuel rail on, we're going to go ahead and take our little Bren Tunings tab here. This is the plug for the air relocation sensor that we took and moved from this area and moved it up to the front of the air box instead of at the intake. All right, so now it's time to remove the stock paper filter, and hopefully you guys bought the Bren Tunings Stage 2 kit that comes with the Sprint air filter. Just lines right in there. And now what you're gonna do is you're gonna go ahead and slide this right into the bike. Yep. So let's see. So we're gonna make sure that we get it in right. So this is the back side, goes towards the front of the bike. And we're gonna slide that in. And once that's slid in, we can take our little holder, and we're gonna slide it right in the 2 little prongs and clip that in. And you're all set. This hose, if it's giving you some problems to figure out, this is your air line for your breather on your gas tank. So that just sits there. Remember, you're gonna have 1 breather over here and 1 breather over here for your fuel tank. All right, now we're moving back onto this little bracket that has all the wire looms on it. So we're gonna go ahead and slide this. Let's see, this goes right here and here and on top here. So this is gonna all line up, and then you've got your 6 screws here that are going to hold that in. All right, well, now we should be at the button up stage. We should be able to grab our ECU with our wire loom and start kind of putting it back up here and getting it back into place. Obviously our wire loom is going to go back through here, and we'll snap all of the wires down, make sure everything is nice and secure. So we'll go ahead and get this all laid out. All of your injector plugs should all be right there. So they should just go 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you've got your air temperature relocation over to the side, which is going to be on this plug, I believe. But we'll go ahead and get this all buttoned up down below, work our way back up to the ECU, get our ECU mounted back up, and we're ready to start up with the tune process. All right, so you guys should be at a position now where we are ready to zip tie. Grab a few little zip ties, and our air temperature relocation is here. You can see it's kind of wired up around here, and we've grabbed the excess, which what we'll do is we will get this all zip tied down when we zip tie everything. So a couple zip ties at the top of the ECU, all the way down here. Make sure everything is nice and secure. Make sure everything is nice and snug before you guys move on to the tuning process, because at this point, basically, we're ready to put the gas tank on and reinstall the bike. So make sure everything is zip tied down. Make sure everything is nice and secure. All right, well, everything should be tightened up, buttoned up. You can see I kind of just looped this air relocation extension cable. Everything is nice and zip tied. I retaped on the little kits here just to make sure that they hold. Injectors are plugged in. Everything's plugged in. You should have one loose hose here and one loose hose over here. You should have your main fuel line down here and your 2 plugs. So now we are pretty much ready for our fuel tank install. So we'll go ahead and grab our fuel tank and get it propped up here. Now I'm not going to tighten this down, but I am going to use the bolt just as a leverage for now. So we'll go ahead and thread this through. And now you're going to get the 2 plugs and fuel line plugged into the bottom of the fuel tank. And then once you get the fuel tank plugged in, we're going to go ahead and pull the bolt back out to kind of give us a little room in the back here. So that's going to allow us to take the tank and then sit it flush. We're going to take our breather hose here and connect it to our breather up here. So you got one breather hose over here, and then your other breather hose you're going to pull up and right into here. And then we're going to go ahead and throw our long bolt back through. All right, well, welcome back to phase 2. We are putting the bike back together. So we have successfully put on our header system. We've been up in the tank. We've actually installed the tank, which was pretty simple. Again, plug it in, and the one 10mm bolt through here and the 2 13mm bolts that holds it down. Of course, you got 2 plugs on the bottom here and here. Pretty self-explanatory. So the tank had to go on for the tuning and everything for the...
All right, so you guys should have your S1000 single R put all back together and you're ready for the Bren tune. Now, we've so far installed a header system on this. We've got the flapper delete on this. We have the air filter from Bren Tune on this. Now we're ready for the tune install. Now, I decided to break the install up from the Bren tuning install because it just started to become a long video. The flapper delete ended up being a little bit longer video, but I'm releasing this video. If you're coming across this video and you're looking for the flapper delete video, they're coming out on the same day. We'll link them together in the next video that will immediately come out after this, which will be your full install of your Bren tune. Because the Bren tune, I don't want to say is complicated, but you have to do a bit of stuff back and forth with Bren tune in order to get the tunes. It's not just a plug and play. It's a plug, take a file, send it to them, answer some questions, they send you a file, then you plug and play. So we've got the bike together, everything is installed, the flapper delete, everything is good, and we're ready for the tune install. So next video up, the tune install. We'll walk you through that, and then we're ready for a nice cold start. So thank you guys for sticking around. Make sure you guys go on to the Bren tuning, because that's the next step. You have to do the Bren tune. If you're at the end here, next step, Bren tune. We'll link it up above. But thank you guys again so much for sticking around for the install. This thing's gonna be a screamer, and we'll see you guys next video. Bye, guys.